Good morning. Before I begin, I have to emphasize that faces, where are we? No? Yeah, is a true interdisciplinary project. The reason that it's interdisciplinary is that different members of the team bring different specialties that the other members don't have. And as a medieval art historian, I admit freely that I'm not actually a specialist in face recognition technology, especially as it regards its statistical aspects and its basis in deep neural networking. What I've brought as an art historian to my role as project director of FACES is the original idea. The research plan with its logical structure, themes, and paradigms, which will not be apparent in this short talk, and an awareness of the art historical applications beyond face recognition. And so, with that, FACES, art and computerized evaluation systems. Before the 19th century, most portraits were, almost by definition, depictions of people who were important in their own worlds. But as a walk through almost any major art museum will show, a large number of these portraits from before the 19th century have lost the identities of their subjects through the fortunes of time. Traditionally, identification of many of these portraits has been limited to often quite variable personal opinion. When used correctly, FACES has the potential to match what is known with a given unknown, something that is unlikely to be accidental, and so something that may be considered to be probable. In this, FACES has the potential to provide previously unnoticeable or unconfirmable information by contributing categories of quantifiable data for researchers to factor into their own analyses. In the application of face recognition technology to actual, that is, photograph faces, a number of difficulties are inherent in a real or perceived alteration of appearance of the face through variations in age, lighting, angle of pose, facial hair, expression, and the very identity of the subject. With portraiture in sculpture, painting, and drawing, not only do all the problems that apply to photograph subjects pertain, but these works of art also have their own additional challenges. Most notably, portrait art does not provide what might be called a photographic likeness, but rather one that goes through a process of visual interpretation on the part of the artist, being subject to the subjectivity of artistic interpretation, and dependent upon the method, ability, and intentions of the individual artist. In the hope of addressing these challenges, the FACES team was formed in 2011 to undertake the systematic application of face recognition technology to these highly subjective aspects of art history, establishing proof of concept, while at the same time retaining the human eye as the final arbiter. 2 grants from the National Endowment for the Humanities, 2012 to 2014, allowed us to establish proof of concept of our project. This phase now called FACES 1.0. Briefly put, what proof of concept meant was addressing 4 main areas: identifying the issues, establishing the basic methodology, applying the FACES algorithm that is the core of this methodology to a particular set of paradigms, these small study groups of images, in order to establish the initial parameters of the technology, and finally, applying the FACES algorithm to a body of chosen identifications. In the end, FACES 1.0 was very successful, but the actual process of testing images was cumbersome and was not something that could be easily undertaken by any but the most experienced. And so at the end of this NEH-funded project, we concluded that we needed to automate FACES. At the start of the project to automate FACES 2.0, funded by the Samuel H. Kress Foundation, 2016 to 2018, a project that will enable us to make FACES available on the website of the Frick Art Reference Library, the Frick Collection, and we're very grateful to both institutions. Thank you very much. At the start of the project to automate FACES, the decision was made to completely redesign the program. The specific application of feature extraction used in Faces 1.0, a very circumscribed body of what are called anthropometric distances and local features, compiled to establish a feature set, that is the most effective body of identifying features, was dropped entirely in favor of the wholly different method of machine learning known as deep neural networking. Deep neural networking is a form of artificial intelligence that attempts to mimic the thought process of the human brain. Yeah, we had a very good description of that yesterday from Professor Meinl. Rather than depending on the specific application of a body of highly specific anthropometric distances and local features, as with Faces 1.0, this technology is able to analyze portrait imagery more flexibly, taking a larger number of features into consideration and analyzing them in a more nuanced way. Although the computer is trained with labeled, that is, known images, as with Faces 1.0, deep neural networking builds its own feature set through a process of layered analysis, one that is more accurate than the feature extraction of the earlier method. With Faces 2.0, we can automatically test the degree of probability of a shared identification between an image of unknown or uncertain identity against one or more images of known identity. By known identity, we mean either an identity that is considered to be certain, for example, an image that can be proven to portray Mary, Queen of Scots, or a name that is attached to a body of portraits. For example, an image that belongs to a body of portraits that cannot be proven to portray the historical figure William Shakespeare, but that might be grouped as types. Shakespeare type 1, Shakespeare type 2, Shakespeare type 3, and so on. While Faces can test a single known portrait against a single unknown portrait against a single known one, the outcome of the testing is more reliable when more than one portrait is used. 3 or 4 knowns might be a good minimum, but the user should test as many good knowns as possible. In this, it's crucial to use good images. Extreme examples of the issues mentioned previously, age, angle of pose, quality of image, and so on, may affect reliability. Just as they do with photographed faces, there's no difference. Faces 2.0 has 2 test levels, simple and advanced. With the simple test, the user uploads or drags and drops the unknown image into the test box, and then does the same with the known image. The test results are then displayed. The advanced test is the same, except that it allows the user to employ more than one image. The use of faces should not be thought of as limited to facial recognition in the sense of identification alone. While time doesn't allow me to go into any details, faces or altered forms of the technology employed in faces might be used to study a spectrum of other applications, ranging from the artistic process to difference in the depiction of various bodies of sitters, to the detection of artistic hands in ornament of all kinds, including metalwork and minute changes in medieval architectural detail that might indicate a change of masons, to the working out of the identities of particular bodies of miniature portraits of uncertain identity from the 16th century on. Portraits that were often given as part of social and political networks that might help recover those lost networks at different levels of society, from the local to the national to the international. Finally, while we are insistent that this technology does not prove the identity of its subjects, either absolutely or relatively, its results, when probable, match what is known with a given unknown. Typically, this is something that is unlikely to be accidental, and so the results tend to be believable. It provides a new category of quantifiable data for researchers to factor into their own analyses. Nor is there any more reason to expect completion or perfection in these first steps than there is with any other new digitally based technology, all of which typically go through long periods of development. As with seemingly everything digital, this is a work in progress, a procedure that will certainly be refined in probably every area, including the most challenging, during the course of its adoption by the museum and academic communities. It's with this understanding that this technology, when effectively used, can not only help solve old and vexing art historical problems, but also, through the possible restoration of lost identities of sometimes lesser works of art, help deepen our view of the history of a given time and place. Thank you.